what makes this film so beautiful is that it's not centered around a man. It's not centered around love at all. And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Here's what would have helped the movie: a love interest for Kara. I did not like this movie because it completely unnecessarily dismantles the strength and grace of Kara as a character. I got the feeling that she's not counting her blessings. She's so ungrateful for the sacrifice that her parents made. They wanted her to survive so that she could have a full life. And instead here she is wasting away on some random planet, bar hopping, getting drunk. The movie itself opens with Krypto taking a piss on Superman. We see Kara brushing her teeth, sitting on the toilet bowl, puking, messy hair, terrible makeup and lighting. This is a deeply unflattering depiction of Supergirl that we have all come to love. It is crude, mean-spirited, and completely disrespectful of the legacy of the character. The movie itself does not give us enough context to bond with the characters.
I've lost track of what I stand for.
Produced by James Gunn and directed by Craig Gillespie and starring Millie Alcock, this movie tells the story of Kara Zor-El, who's the lone survivor after her planet is destroyed and she finds her way to reclaiming her path of being a superhero. It is loosely adapted from the comic miniseries Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow. The movie picks up following Kara Zor-El's brief introduction at the end of Superman. Unlike her optimistic cousin Clark, Kara is deeply traumatized by her past. Flashbacks reveal that her parents managed to save her childhood home Argo City on a surviving fragment of Krypton. The land slowly turns into poisonous kryptonite, forcing her to watch everyone she loves die before escaping. Unable to adjust to Earth's culture, a cynical and jaded Kara exiles herself to outer space. She spends her days hopping between red sun planets to self-medicate with alcohol, accompanied only by her loyal dog, Krypto. While drinking at a remote alien bar, Kara crosses paths with Ruthie, an alien child. Ruthie wants to take revenge against Krem of the Yellow Hills for murdering her entire family. Initially, Kara refuses to involve herself in the girl's blood feud. But the conflict becomes personal to Kara when Krem crosses paths with her, steals her starship, and shoots Krypto with a lethal poisoned arrow. Krem is the only one who has the antidote to Krypto's poison, and because of this, she's forced to team up with Ruthie and join her in this battle. At this point, because Kara's spaceship is gone and she's away from a yellow sun, her superpowers are highly limited, and she's forced to use her grit, her intelligence, and her skills at fighting to survive. She moves through alien worlds along with Ruthie to find Krem's genocidal faction, Barbon's Brigands. These guys are part of an all-male group of cosmic thugs and PDF files who propagate their species using underage female captives. Along the way, the chaotic and violent cosmic mercenary Lobo enters the fray. As the journey progresses, Kara is a cynical protector of Ruthie and tries to teach her that consuming oneself with murderous vengeance will only leave her emotionally hollow. A lesson Kara herself is actively fighting to learn. This being the plot, my feelings for the movie are negative. I did not like this movie because it completely unnecessarily dismantles the strength and grace of Kara as a character. The movie itself opens with Krypto taking a piss on Superman. We see Kara brushing her teeth, sitting on the toilet bowl, puking, messy hair, terrible makeup and lighting. This is a deeply unflattering depiction of Supergirl that we have all come to love. It is crude, mean-spirited, and completely disrespectful of the legacy of the character. The movie itself does not give us enough context to bond with the characters. This also means that we don't feel enough stakes to root for the characters. Kara is a fucker. Ruthie is annoying. Krem and his men are just flat characters. We don't see any dimensions to their personality. Lobo is just there to fight. That's it. He does nothing except just show up all of a sudden and then disappear when it's convenient. None of the characters are properly fleshed out or given a core moral philosophy. It's just one action sequence after another, strung together, for the sole purpose of creating CGI spectacle in order to justify the, I think, approximately $200 million that was spent filming this movie. Millie Alcock's Supergirl is a stark departure from the previous live-action versions of Supergirl. Typically, Supergirl is depicted as someone that is wholesome and optimistic, and despite her tragic circumstances, she is capable of mentorship. This Supergirl is bitter, she's mean, she's loveless, and she's hopeless. James Gunn's DCU Kara stands at odds with her cousin Superman. Superman was raised in Kansas farm with loving parents. He views the universe with innate optimism. Kara, on the other hand, has survived a planetary genocide. So it is obvious that their point of views will be different. Because of this, she finds his worldview naive. Their clashing perspectives serve as central narrative friction. We can see this in the dismissive attitude she takes to Kal-El's many attempts at staying in touch with her and checking up on her well-being. He keeps trying to cheer her up, he keeps trying to bring her back into normal behavior, and she absolutely rejects any and all attempts at connecting with him. But here's the thing. You can be emotionally upset and depressed without being an absolute asshole. By constantly rejecting attempts by Superman to keep in touch with her, she doesn't come across as grieving or wounded. I got the feeling that she's not counting her blessings. She's so ungrateful for the sacrifice that her parents made. They wanted her to survive so that she could have a full life. And instead here she is wasting away on some random planet, bar hopping, getting drunk. She doesn't make good use of the superpowers that she has. She does not train her dog Crypto. She is not grateful for the lucky stroke of having a cousin alive. And the worst of all, she has poor hygiene. She goes to the toilet and she doesn't wash her hands. The movie is disgusting. I don't think that Kara Zor-El needs to be depicted the same way as an angsty teenage human girl. In any depiction of a normal person versus a superhero, what sets the superhero apart is their innate resilience, their problem-solving ability, and optimism which is foundational to their outlook. They may have moments of self-doubt or inability to perform to the best of their ability. What makes superheroes special is that whether or not they have superpowers, they have an internal locus of control. Superheroes are largely self-motivated to climb out of tough spots through sheer willpower and ingenuity. This Supergirl is not punk rock. She is just a miserable and rude young woman who is purposeless and just adrift. The point that I keep circling back to when I think about this movie is that this is such a wasted opportunity to present an aspirational story that is filled with hope. I strongly believe that we need to stop portraying superheroes with the worst qualities of humanity just so that they can seem relatable to us on screen. It's okay to create a perfectionist hero that is filled with hope and optimism, that knows that things will sort themselves out eventually, and who has the confidence to carry other people's destiny in their hands. The problem is that when you have the depiction of these kind of fuck-ups, total miserable superheroes who are unable to get their shit together, it then makes us reluctant to place our destiny in their hands because they can't even sort their own stuff out. How are they going to be role models to us? So this whole concept of trying to make superheroes relatable through human quirks and weaknesses, I think that is the wrong path to go down. You can show them having minor crises, but ultimately what makes them stand out is that they're clearly stronger, better, smarter, but with ingenuity, with innate moral strength. When you're faced with challenges, they have the ability to think, okay, you know what? I can overcome that. Even if my superpowers are dimmed, I have optimism that I can solve this issue and climb out of this route. Optimistic superheroes who struggle with perfectionism offer a starkly different viewing experience from a cynical, embittered superhero. Here are 5 reasons this movie does not work. The perfectionist hero represents the absolute best of humanity. They give audiences a sense of pure escapism. They allow viewers to look up to a moral ideal. This moral ideal strives to do everything right. The anti-hero, on the other hand, is a drunk, emotionally dysregulated mess who forces the audience to confront reality with all of its messiness and complications. People who come to watch superhero movies are looking for magic of a savior. They want a rare glimpse into the inner turmoil of the hero when he's making difficult choices. The stakes are really high when you watch him make the right choice and then emerge victorious despite odds being stacked against him. The audiences that come for superhero movies are not looking for reality. In that case, they'd be out there watching documentaries, not superhero movies. When a hero demands perfection from themselves, the stakes become deeply personal. Tension comes from the intense fear of the protagonist from failing the people who depend on his protection. What this does is it makes even minor missteps seem catastrophic. But that sense of doom and catastrophe is what makes the movie watchable. It keeps the audiences at the edge of their seat. The anti-hero is already a screw-up and has very low personal standards. Because they already expect to fail or mess up, it's very difficult to build tension around the progress of such a character because they've already hit rock bottom. A bright, idealistic hero creates a sharp, black and white moral contrast against their villains. This classic good versus evil dynamic makes it incredibly easy for the audiences to follow the story. When the hero is angry, cynical, and bitter, it blurs the boundaries between the protagonist and the antagonist. The moral ambiguity can leave the audiences with no one to really root for or feel inspired by. Optimistic heroes are inherently family-friendly. They serve as excellent role models for children, even while remaining symbols of hope for adults. This expands a movie's audience across generations. When a character is given to substance abuse and volatile behavior, it immediately restricts the audience to an older, more cynical demographic. The emotional climax of an optimistic hero story is almost always triumphant and inspiring. Audiences leave the theater feeling energized, hopeful, and comforted by the victory of goodness. Stories about emotionally dysregulated characters tend to be heavy, exhausting, and tragic. The resolution often feels bittersweet or bleak, which can leave generational audiences feeling emotionally drained rather than entertained. An added catastrophe to the already bleak prospects for Gunn's Kara is that she has no love interest.
What makes this film so beautiful is that it's not centered around a man. It's not centered around love at all. And we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love.
Millie made a comment that this movie has no love interest, as though that is a strength of the script. I deeply disagree with this idea. Here's what would have helped the movie: a love interest for Kara. Introducing an emotionally supportive partner would have helped grounded her erratic behaviors. In this movie, Kara is spiraling because of trauma. She needed an emotional counterweight to help her heal. Here's how a stable, supportive partner would have strengthened the script. In the movie, Kara uses alcohol and spacefaring escapism to deal with the loss of her parents and her whole planet. An emotionally stable partner who loves her and cares for her would offer her an opportunity for co-regulation. When a person is traumatized or has high anxiety, having dependable, calm, safe people helps them heal faster. That's the magic of co-regulation. This was completely written out of the script. Once again, the hopelessness of it, the complete pessimism of it. It's so unnecessary. These are easily solvable problems in the script. No one thought, hey, you know what? Let's make this a happier place to be. They just leaned in hard into the darkness, and it was completely not required. No one wants this. Audiences don't like it. I don't know why these movie makers keep doing this. Kara's current arc relies on her being a lone wolf. This does show her strength in some ways, but it also keeps her emotionally stagnant. It is easy to remain angry and cynical when you don't let anyone else in. True healing from massive loss requires vulnerability. Allowing Kara to fall for someone, and a human being, maybe without superpowers, or another alien without godlike superpowers that she has. This would allow her to ground herself in someone that's different from her and yet happy. It's easy to swing a sword at an alien monster and try and kill it. It is much harder to open your scarred heart and allow yourself to fall in love with someone else. That kind of courage, that kind of bravery would have definitely shown us a more well-rounded Kara rather than this surface level observation of who she is. Surviving a genocide can leave someone with survivor's guilt. That's partly what Kara is dealing with. Kara feels unworthy of being alive because everyone else that she loved died on Krypton. This is partly what feeds her screw-up, self-destructive behavior. A supportive partner would have reflected back her values to her. This would have reminded her of who she is, apart from being a superhero, apart from someone that helps others or is there for a purpose. Should have first of all discovered who she is in the presence of another loving person. This would have given her a reason to think that she's not just a broken relic of a dead past. This love would have validated her right to exist and her desire for a beautiful present and a hopeful future. When a character is emotionally dysregulated and isolated, their battles can feel repetitive. The audience is constantly watching a loose cannon fighting other chaotic forces. There is no stability, there is no anchoring in the plot because none of the characters are anchored. There is nothing to grasp onto. This makes the overall tone of the movie bleak. And that bleakness is relentless. A stable romantic relationship would provide a beautiful narrative contrast. It would create a home front worth fighting for. By having something warm, safe to look forward to, it would remind both Kara and the audiences that there is a reason why she is fighting. To answer the crucial question, what is she ultimately fighting to protect? Surviving trauma is victory. But being stuck in a survivalist mindset brings in stagnancy. As she's reflected in the movie right now, she is a traumatized victim that is aggressively reacting to the universe around her. A healthy love interest would have provided her with a bridge to move away from her past and into a future. Right now, she has no bridge. She's literally in the middle of space floating. She's literally nowhere. She has no direction. The movie didn't have to go down this path. We don't see anything that grounds her from a bitter, cynical individual who is trying to run away from the course of the past into a superhero who then takes on the mantle of protecting others. There is no arc. She just suddenly one day switches up and she decided to fight. But we don't see a growth. There is, like I told you, it doesn't flesh out any of the details. She's one way one day and she's another way the next day, and we don't know why. She advises the girl not to take revenge, and then in the very same shot, she just turns around and stabs the villain in the neck. What is this story?
I've lost track of what I stand for.
To understand how a love interest would have made this plot much richer, we can look back no farther than just Lois Lane and Superman. Lois Lane is the ultimate blueprint for a supportive partner of a superhero. She is Clark Kent's psychological anchor, keeping him tethered to humanity. Clark Kent possesses the power to fly into the cosmos and view Earth from a detached, godlike perspective. Lois represents the human world she loves. She gives him a regular domestic life, sharing a morning coffee, arguing over a news article, dealing with everyday human problems. This prevents him from becoming an isolated, cold, alien deity. Superman spends his days carrying the weight of the entire world on his shoulders. He cannot show weakness, fear, or exhaustion to the public. With Lois, he can take off the cape, drop his guard, openly bleed emotionally. She listens to his doubts and provides a safe space where he's allowed to be fragile. To the world, Clark Kent is an invincible alien savior. To Lois, he's simply Clark, a good man from Kansas. Her love is not based on his heat vision or his ability to bench press a mountain. She loves his character and moral center. This specific validation keeps him humble and ensures his ego never detaches from human empathy. In the comic books, Supergirl's romantic relationships have helped to pull her out of isolation and emotional despair. Two specific characters stand out as emotionally grounding anchors for Supergirl: Brainiac 5 and Dick Grayson. In the Legion of Superheroes lore, Kara travels to the 31st century and falls in love with Brainiac 5. He's a hyper-intelligent, logical clone of one of Superman's greatest enemies. Kara often struggles with feeling like an unpredictable, emotional outcast who doesn't fit into the modern era. Brainiac 5 provides an incredibly stable, logical, and calm presence. He looks past her destructive outbursts and seeks to understand the root cause of her trauma, and builds specialized technology to help her process and manage her immense powers safely. His steady, unwavering devotion gives her a sense of belonging that she lacks on Earth. In various comic continuities, Kara shares a deep, flirtatious, and supportive bond with Dick Grayson. Unlike Superman, who barely remembers Krypton, Kara explicitly remembers losing her family, her friends, and her entire culture. Dick Grayson, having witnessed the violent murder of his own parents, deeply understands the crushing weight of sudden catastrophic loss. But Dick chose to process his trauma by becoming a bright, joyful, and emotionally balanced hero. By pairing with him, Kara learns that she doesn't have to let grief harden her into a bitter warrior. Dick models how to find joy, laughter, and light again after surviving the worst day of your life. Gunn missed the mark by painting a grim picture of Kara's journey. James Gunn's creative gamble with Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, was an intentional attempt to subvert the traditional superhero formula. However, the film's low B cinema score and weak 38 million to 40 million domestic box office opening suggest that this radical reinvention may have alienated the core audience. By stripping Kara of her classic heroism, denying her a stabilizing romantic anchor, and leaning into a gritty, space western aesthetic, the film missed the narrative marks that historically drive mass audience engagement. Audiences go to a Superman or Supergirl movie for a core emotional payoff: hope, inspiration, and moral clarity. By portraying Kara as an emotionally dysregulated, cynical young woman who uses alcohol as an escape, Gunn broke the fundamental promise of the brand. A traditional optimistic Kara who channels her trauma into fierce desire to protect others while being supported by a stable lover keeps the character aspirational. Audiences want to root for a hero who lifts them up, not a deeply flawed protagonist whose coping mechanisms feel depressing and alienating. The decision to make Kara a foul-mouthed, drinking, emotionally unstable warrior automatically alienates families, children, and casual fans who look to Supergirl as a wholesome role model. This narrow creative focus artificially capped the movie's box office potential. A traditional portrayal with a classic, sweeping romance appeals to a massive demographic. Romance subplots are historically powerful engines for drawing in wider audiences, particularly female demographics and casual viewers who care more about character relationships than sci-fi lore. Combining high-stakes superhero action with a heartfelt love story creates a blockbuster. Introducing an emotionally stable and supportive partner for Kara wouldn't have just helped her from spiraling. It would have also been a massive opportunity to showcase healthy masculinity on a global cinematic stage. By flipping the tired, traditional trope where women are expected to be emotional healers for broken men, this narrative choice would have offered something deeply empowering and refreshing for the male audiences. Instead of leaving the theater feeling an emotional void from a cynical, isolated protagonist, men could have walked out feeling uplifted, validated, and purposeful. In traditional media, a male love interest to a powerful female character can end up falling into two extremes. One can be the beta male that is insecure, or it can be the toxic alpha who wants to dominate her. A secure man breaks this binary completely through three distinct traits. A securely masculine partner is comfortable standing in the shadow of a literal goddess. He doesn't need superpowers to feel like a man because his confidence comes from his character, integrity, and his emotional maturity. Instead of expecting the woman to fix him, he brings in emotional maturity. He acts as the stable anchor. He acts as a safe harbor, allowing her to drop her guard and weep if she needs to. The secure masculinity does not seek to control or fix the woman like a broken machine. It offers unwavering, quiet support from the sidelines, stepping in to carry the emotional weight so she has the strength to fight the external battles. Historically, cinema has forced women into the role of patient caregiver who fixes the emotionally stunted, angry anti-hero. Flipping this dynamic, where a grounded, emotionally mature man helps heal a fractured, chaotic woman, provides male viewers with a profound blueprint for how emotional intelligence is a form of true strength. Steve Trevor is a gritty World War I spy, but when introduced to a literal demigod, he never suffers from an ego crisis. He doesn't try to outfight her or protect her from things she's clearly stronger than. Instead, he guides her through the confusing, cynical moral landscape of the human world. He protects her innocence and emotional core, ultimately sacrificing himself to give her the inspiration to save humanity. He is secure in his mortality, alongside her divinity. Katniss Everdeen is the classic emotionally dysregulated, cynical survivalist warrior, very similar to Gunn's iteration of Kara. She's cold, angry, and carries immense trauma. Peter is the absolute antithesis of the toxic male archetype. He's gentle, emotionally articulate, artistic, and deeply empathetic. He doesn't try to match Katniss's violence. Instead, he provides the unconditional love, warmth, and psychological safety she needs to heal from her severe PTSD. He is the healer, she is the warrior. Evelyn Wang is a hardened, bitter, and emotionally exhausted woman who treats those around her with cynical harshness. Waymond is a goofy, overly sweet husband whom she initially views as weak. The movie delivers a massive thesis on masculinity when Waymond reveals that his kindness and optimism are not weaknesses, but a deliberate strategy for survival. His famous line, "Please be kind, especially when we don't know what's going on," completely redefines masculine strength. His emotional stability and empathy are what ultimately heal his fractured family and save the multiverse. Played by J.K. Simmons, Mac is the father of a pregnant teenager dealing with a massive life upheaval. While a paternal relationship rather than a romantic one, Mac provides a masterclass in secure masculinity for a dysregulated young woman. He doesn't scream, cast blame, or retreat into toxic anger. He remains a steady, calm rock. His unconditional support and grounding presence give Juno the emotional framework to process her situation without spiraling into self-destruction. When a movie portrays a superhero entirely through the lens of isolated grit and cynicism, it leaves the male audiences with a sense of nihilism. It implicitly teaches men that life is a lonely, cold battlefield where you must harden your heart to survive. By showcasing a securely masculine partner who helps Supergirl heal, the movie would have given the male audiences a powerful sense of purpose. It teaches men that emotional literacy, patience, and empathy are high-value heroic traits. It shows that a man's worth isn't dictated by his physical dominance, but by his ability to be a protector of peace and a sanctuary for those he loves. It leaves the audiences feeling uplifted and inspired to cultivate that same emotional stability in their own real-world relationships. The continued fame of fairy tales and K-dramas, where love wins against all odds, is screaming a message at Hollywood. If only they would listen.